Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello, welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, sports, TV, and horror movies, of course. And my guest is in a horror movie. He plays Art the Clown in Terrifier. And my guest is an actor, a voice actor, does a bunch of stuff. We're with David H. Thornton. David, welcome to Popternative.
Hi, how you doing?
When did you kind of decide that, storytelling or kind of voice acting and acting was something you wanted to do? Did you study it in school? Like, how did that become a thing?
Oh, that's a long story, actually. I actually went to school to get a degree in elementary education, but I had done theater my whole entire life. But I was trying to be very, practical and pragmatic about what I want to do with my career, so I could support a family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it really wasn't until my mom passed away from cancer back when I was in my final years of college that my whole perspective about life in general changed, especially what would actually fulfill me and make me happy. And I realized that, not teaching people, but rather entertaining people, I found more fulfillment out of. So I was like, well, why don't I just do that instead? And so I talked to my dad about it, and he was like, yeah, your mom and I always thought that's what, you need to do with your life. We just don't want to tell you one way or another. So, yeah, go ahead, finish up your degree, and then do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that.
And you worked on a lot of projects, but of course, people kind of know you as Art the Clown in Terrifier. And I'm going to tell you, it's terrifying. There's not much more to say. I mean, you're terrifying. What was kind of the reaction that you got, from family and friends that you were Art the Clown? You were this psycho killer and this, horror film that, did pretty well and got a little bit of a cult following, I would say.
Yeah, it's been a little bit nuts because they're all like, well, we knew you were crazy anyway, so it's about time other people realize it. But yeah. Yeah, they've everybody's been pretty stoked about it, I would say. It's been, I still don't think it's all really sunk in yet, what all's been going on. It's just been all kinds of surreal for me because it's all happened so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so I'm like, yeah.
And I also think what I find really cool is I'm a big horror movie fan. A lot of my friends are big horror movie fans. And we did it this year. We do it every year. The year before, we kind of did a smaller one. But, when Halloween comes around, that's going to be a time where a lot of people are going to watch it. And people do marathons. And what I usually do is every day of October, or I started maybe the second week of October, I do a horror movie every night. And I definitely think that with the whole clown thing, Terrifier is going to be on the list. What do you kind of think Terrifier had that kind of maybe set itself apart from, the typical slasher horror films? Because there's a little bit of comedy in there too.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Is we blended horror and comedy together, but not trying to be too over the top with the comedy, in movies you saw like Babysitter and stuff recently, where they had
that one a lot.
Oh, I loved it. I thought that was rated R version of Home Alone. I was like, this is great.
I loved it.
I think what we did is we mixed that, but we also had just the ultra violent, slasher type film with the gore and the crazy kills, and we struck a nerve with people, I guess, because I think it's been lacking a lot in the horror industry recently.
But I think there's always a market for horror films, and I think you look back and I think there's a bunch of elements that come into mind why they're so popular. But I wanted to know what you think kind of stands out and makes them so successful. Do you think it's the jump scare aspect of it? Do you think it's the fact that it's an escape from reality? Do you think people just kind of the tension? What do you think hits stride with people in terms of horror films, David?
I think what it is the survival nature of it all is because it even though you're not actually the one being the victim in this, you feel like you're going on a ride yourself. and you have actually triumphed and you have lived through this experience at the end of it. Like, so there's that relief at the end of it. I think that's one of the main parts of it, I guess.
What? Oh, yeah,
also escape from reality too, all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world right now anyway. So, but that's how it's always been. You see those shifts in like the type of movies, the type of horror films that are out there depending on the climate of the world at the time too, which I always have thought is pretty cool.
Oh, no, absolutely. And like, take us through Art the Clown. What was kind of going through your head when you found out you got the part? What were kind of the things that you wanted to accomplish with the character? Did you successfully accomplish that? And because we understand that it was a character that was in a previous film before as well.
Oh, yeah. I was so freaking happy. I did the dance of joy around my apartment and everything when I first got casted. So I was so stoked because I grew up, of course, watching the old silent films. Like I've always loved physical comedy, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of Chaplin and Buster Keaton and like Marx Brothers and stuff like that. But also, like as a kid, my aunt got me hooked on Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean. She gave me a whole like set of all of his films when I was about 13 years old. And when I watched those, I had always wanted to do some kind of character like that. That was just a silent character, very mischievous character that did weird shit, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And I saw this as a perfect opportunity to play that type of character in a new creative way. It's like, this is like Mr. Bean on steroids.
Mr. Bean on steroids, but a psychopath Mr. Bean.
Yeah, evil Mr. Bean,
No, for sure. We're seeing a lot of content out there, but we're also seeing a lot of ways people could watch and find out about this content. So it's not only the fact that there's a lot of content, but there's different ways of watching this content. It's not like necessarily just like one or two networks are just making as many shows as they can or as many movies as they can. There's a lot of people doing it. What have been some of the things that you've noticed from the industry that have changed, and specifically maybe the horror film industry in terms of the content being disseminated out there? Because there's so much content out there.
Oh yeah, there really is. But unlike what I've noticed, like the biggest change, especially, you see it like with the independent films and stuff that's being released on Netflix and stuff like that. I think filmmakers are taking more risks there. But when you look at like the big Hollywood studio releases of like horror films, they're not taking the risks anymore. They're trying to play it as safe as possible because they want to put more butts in the seats. Mm-hmm. And so they're toning down a lot of the films that are released, which is amazing to me because it's like they put so much money into those films and they flop. And there's a reason they're flopping. It's because they're not giving the audience what they truly want in those types of films. Mm-hmm. But then you have these like, the Babadook and stuff like that that's being released on like Netflix and everything. And the audiences are loving them. Mm-hmm.
Terrifier as well. And Terrifier has been, I'm in a lot of these Facebook groups, right? And a lot of people write these horror movie Facebook groups. And a lot of people will comment like, I want some movies to watch. Like I'm going on vacation and I want some horror movies to watch. And like, yeah, Babadook, The Witch, It Follows, a lot of those will be in there. But Terrifier's in there a lot. Like you see in the list what people are recommending, and that's good because I think it is, that slasher film, but it's different in a sense, and people want to see that.
Yeah, that makes me so freaking happy.
No, it's one of those things too where you mentioned The Babysitter. There was also another horror movie film that I watched called Better Watch Out. Do you remember that? Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one yet.
That is literally Home Alone on steroids. Like you mentioned the Home Alone comparison. Better Watch Out is literally, because it also takes place around Christmas time. Mm-hmm. So you should check that one out because I love the Babysitter was great. And Carl McDowell, who has been on our show, he plays TDD on Ballers. He actually has a small role. He's the nurse in the beginning of Babysitter, giving the character a shot. A shot at the school. So he told me to look out for it. What have you kind of noticed from the production aspect of a lot of these movies, because you look at a movie like Terrifier and you look at it and people have talked about it. The budget was a lot smaller compared to a lot of other movies, but there's still a lot of like it's very packed in terms of props and blood and like a lot of things. So what do you kind of think about that aspect of things? Like a lot of movies that are on shoestring budgets are able to kind of make these movies that are powerful. You didn't even maybe know that it had a small budget.
Well, I think it's like when you have a smaller budget, you have to get creative.
Mm-hmm. You have to.
And that's what like Damien and our crew did with this. Is like we had the budget for this. I don't want to tell you the number, but you're probably thinking it's a lot higher than what actually was. But what they were able to accomplish, it boggles my mind. Is like Damien himself did all the practical effects. He made all of that himself, so he didn't have to hire someone to do all that. He did all of that. Mm-hmm. And the locations we filmed in were real locations. Those were not sets. Like that bathroom actually looked that nasty. But I think that's like the difference you have is like the smaller films, they're having to be creative. They're actually having to use real things because they don't have the budget to do what these bigger studio films are doing. And I think that's another problem with the bigger studios. They're relying too much on not using practical effects, and they're relying too much more on the CGI. That was like one of my real beefs with it, was there was way too much CGI in that.
I enjoyed it though. I liked it.
Practical. Oh, I enjoyed it. It was just like the scene where Pennywise is dancing. And I'm like, he's known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown, and then he's doing that's CG'd. I'm like, oh, come on, man. You could have at least had... It's like, come on. It's like,
I think there's clown bias from Art the Clown right now.
Yeah, it's because it cast Bill Hader over me for Richie.
Has that been confirmed? Like, is he? I saw that him and Jessica Chastain.
I think great casting though. I was like, man, because I was really wanting to play Richie in it, but I'm still not a big name yet. But I'm like, when I found out,
did you go in for it? Did you audition for it?
No. I was constantly just like, come on, give me. It was like, yeah, I think yeah. But I mean, Bill, good God, he's a fantastic choice for it. I mean, he's.
No, absolutely. But I don't know. I wasn't sure if that was confirmed because I even saw Jessica Chastain was in talks too, but I wasn't sure if and I saw Bill Hader, Jessica Chastain were in talks, but I wasn't sure if it was confirmed.
I think it's pretty much confirmed. Okay. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see. Another thing too is a horror movie that I watched that really made me feel uncomfortable was Get Out.
Oh yeah.
That movie was the most. Since the first scene of that movie, I felt uncomfortable. Like the first scene where they was getting kidnapped. Like that whole movie is just like it doesn't have that much. It doesn't have a lot of gore. It doesn't have a lot of violence. It doesn't have that many jump scares. But it's one of those movies that just the awkwardness and the uncomfortability of the characters, it makes it. So do you think that those type of psychological thrillers or these movies that kind of have really strange characters that have these really they're not necessarily super violent, but they have weird mannerisms, that is used in horror films a lot now too. The awkwardness, the creepiness, people get curious.
And I love that. That's the thing. It's people don't understand there's so many different types of horror films too. It's you can't compare Terrifier to Get Out at all. They're totally, completely different types of films. Mm-hmm. But that's what I love about it. It's especially with Get Out, that taps into things that we all can relate to. Especially those in the Black community. That was wow, this is really tapping into something that is an issue that's going on in the world right now. Especially when you consider all the stuff going on with the protesting with the police violence and stuff like that. I'm like, it's tapping into something that is a big social issue right now, and I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant move on their part to do that, and I hope to see more films like that.
No, for sure. It was really interesting. And what could we expect from David H. Thornton coming up, and maybe what can we expect from Art the Clown? Is he still around? Is he getting ready for his next victims? What's happening with that?
Yeah. For myself, I mean, I'm still working on season 3 of this web series I'm on called Nightwing Escalation, where I play the Joker on that. So we're still filming that. It's all fan made, so we all have to kind of work around each other's schedules to find a time when we can actually all film together. But I'm also have I can't announce the name of it yet, but I have a Hulu series that's coming out this fall it's an animated series where I provide a few voices in a few episodes and stuff like that. So a lot of big name talent is attached to that one. So I'm stoked. I just wish I could say more.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. As for art, we're definitely planning to do more films. I think Damien's right now just about to start writing the sequel. Mm-hmm. So we're almost on a daily basis where we're contacting each other with ideas and stuff like that. We're like, hey, we thought this just stuff that might happen in our everyday life. We're like, oh man, this person pissed me off. You know what would be a fun way to kill this person?
do you find that, do you like the term cult following? Like, you know when people use the term cult following, like a movie has a cult following, like Terrifier has a cult following. Do you like that term?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I've used it most of my life too. You know, it's like, because it's like, you know, you look at it, it's like it's a passionate following behind something, and not everybody's into it, so it totally works.
No, absolutely. Well, like I said, I think we'll wrap up. But David, thank you so much for joining us, joining myself on Popternative. It was really awesome to talk to you about this stuff. And like I said, Art the Clown is, I mean, for people who have not seen Terrifier, where could they watch Terrifier?
You can see it on most like video on demand services like Google Play, Vudu, stuff like that. You can also buy physical copies of it. That's a Blu-ray DVD combo from Epic Pictures and Dread Central Presents. And we're hoping to work on some deals coming out, you know, releasing on some other platforms like Redbox and Netflix, hopefully, knock on wood. So, you know, we're trying to get it out there for everybody to see as much as possible.
For sure. Where can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at David H. Thornton, on Instagram under at David Howard Thornton. Same thing with Facebook. And I also have a few videos where I just, you know, mess around a little bit on YouTube as well under David Howard Thornton. So
very cool.
My character impersonations and stuff like that on there. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best for the upcoming projects, man.
Much appreciated. This is fun.
No, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative. You can catch previous episodes of Popternative for the video episodes, youtube.com/Popternative. If you don't want to see our faces, you just want to listen to us, you could subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there. So be sure to subscribe to us, leave us a like on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Be sure to follow David on all the social media platforms and watch Terrifier, because horror movies there's been a boom with horror movies these last couple of years, and there's some amazing stuff out there, and they need to be watched. So watch it. And until next time, this is David Howard Thornton, or David H. Thornton, according to his Twitter, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.